Hey everybody, welcome to video number 4 in our free training video series called 6 Keys to the Pass List, how to move from failure on the bar to success on the bar. Glad to have you with us. My name is Jackson Mumey and I am the founder of Celebration Bar Review. I've been teaching the bar exam for 30 years. I've got millions of viewers and thousands of students that I've helped over the years to pass the bar exam. People just like you from all walks of life, people who've gone from failure to success on the bar. And I'm glad you're with me today because we are really looking at what it takes to be successful on the bar exam based on a recent study that came for the New York bar examiners and done by a group called the Access Lex Institute. This study was done based on interviews and research with first and second time bar candidates for the New York Uniform Bar Exam. It was a 2-year study. It covered July 2016 through February 28th bar exam administrations. And as I said, it was a statistical study and also a significant amount of interviews and focus groups. The findings from this study were absolutely breathtaking and really in some ways revolutionary, although they support a great deal of what we've been teaching and talking about at Celebration Bar Review for a number of years. And so in a series of videos, I've put together 6 reasons based on this study that people fail the exam. So far, we've looked at 3 of those. The fact that people don't have enough study time, that they have poor quality of study, that they aren't good in the way that they use their study time and the way that they take the exam in terms of time management. And today we're going to look at negative study experiences. Those are 4 of the 6 reasons for failure. In other videos, we'll look at the next 2. And then we looked at the 6 keys to the pass list, and they correspond to each of those 6 problems. We've looked at how you can increase your study time, increase your quality of the time that you spend studying, do a better job of time management, and today, what kinds of positive experiences actually make a difference to help you pass the bar. And then again, we'll look at the remaining 2 items in upcoming videos. So that's where we are in the process. Today, we're looking at key number 4 in our list, and that was found by the study and the survey to be that people who had positive experiences in their legal study generally did better on the bar exam. And I know that seems pretty obvious, but there's some interesting findings here, so I hope you'll stick around and let's see what together came of all of that. When the study asked bar takers, both first and second time, as to what made a difference for them on the bar exam, there were a number of things that came up, but one of the key findings was that the kind of experiences that individuals had, specifically in law school, really did seem to make a difference for them in how they did on the exam. And the kinds of items that people talked about were the need for good mentors and teachers, having good connections and work experience and groups that they could participate in. All of those pieces together seem to create an environment in which people did better on the bar exam. And we want to break that finding down in a little bit more detail right now. The first thing that the study found with respect to this positive experience was that there was a correlation between student engagement and satisfaction and how people did on the bar exam. Not surprisingly, the number one finding of this part of the study was that if you were on Law Journal in law school, that's actually very positively correlated to the pass rates. In fact, there was a 6% increase among students that were on Journal who were first-time takers, but more significantly, there was a 16% increase for second-time bar takers. I point this out for a couple of reasons. One is you might have been on Journal in law school. If so, you should take some confidence and encouragement from that because it does make a difference. Why? I suppose it's partly self-selecting, but also just the fact that you had the experience writing and the rigor and the work that was done seems to correlate positively with taking the bar exam. In fact, they found that for people who had been in Journal, it was clear that they were more likely to pass the exam than people that did not. I also have to point out, if you were not on Journal, it doesn't mean you're not going to pass the bar. It simply means that for people that had that experience, it's a positive, and it's one of those interesting things that we look at and say, okay, that apparently makes a difference. Along with being on Journal, the other thing that the study found with respect to student engagement and satisfaction was that the more satisfied you were with your law school experience, the more likely you were to pass the exam. weird to me in some respects, but basically what they found is that 63% of first-time candidates were in fact satisfied with their law school experience. The remaining 39% apparently less. But there was a correlation between satisfaction with law school and ability to pass the bar exam. How does that break out in real life experience? As I work with particularly focused repeat bar takers, I find that the people that have something positive to draw on from their law school experience, that have some good moments or recollections or moments of feeling satisfied or accomplished, can draw on that experience when it comes to the bar. The problem is if you had a bad law school experience, when you get under the pressure and the tension and the stress of the bar exam, it tends to block out everything else in your world, and all you remember are the bad things. Clearly, if you failed the bar exam, it's easy to then make that not true, but still very important connection in your brain that you're a failure. And if law school was a negative experience for you, it reinforces all of those feelings of failure. So I think that one of the things that the study really is helping us understand is that finding those things that were positives for you and drawing on them when you're studying for the bar become particularly important. I teach an exercise called the Circle of Excellence, in which I encourage my students who are repeat bar takers to remember moments of success in some part of their life. It might be sports or music or academics or law school. But whatever that item is, I ask them to remember that moment of success and then working together kinesthetically to transfer that feeling of success into their bar study as they're preparing and studying. And it makes a difference. So we know that satisfaction with your prior experience can be important because it gives you a foundation to think about and to build on as you study for the bar exam. So I thought that was an interesting part of the study. Another piece of this study that was equally fascinating to me is that there were things that turned out statistically to make no difference whatsoever. So if you're feeling bad about the law journal piece, here's another part of that study, which is there's a whole bunch of things that didn't change the needle at all. There were found to be no advantages in the study from being in clinic or doing mock trial, which many people did. There were no advantages from having jobs in law school. Working while you were in law school didn't make any difference. Whether you worked in law school or you didn't, made no difference at all. It also came out in the study that if you had a law school mentor, there was no advantage there either. I'm not sure exactly what they meant by mentor, but if there was a particular professor or someone that you worked with who was your mentor, apparently it didn't make any difference in respect to the pass rate. And if you were a student group leader, so you were the president of whatever student association there was, that doesn't create a difference either. That doesn't mean that those things are bad or that they're not helpful. They're clearly helpful in the practice of law and in study and in world and in living, but they didn't make a difference on the bar exam. Sometimes I hear bar takers tell me that they think they're at a disadvantage because they didn't have law school related jobs, or that they didn't have a good mentor to help them in school, or that they didn't do a clinic, or they didn't participate in mock trial. And I appreciate why it would feel like you're missing out on something, but I think now we have some empirical data that helps us understand that in fact none of that made any difference at all in bar passage rate. So don't get caught up into thinking that's a reason. I think for some people it becomes an excuse. But here's the finding that I found most interesting in this entire part of the study. And it was a real surprise, I think, and it shocked a lot of folks. But here's what they discovered. That one of the things that did not make a difference were law school bar prep courses. And I'm quoting from the study. It says participation in a law school course on bar preparation was not significantly associated with bar exam passage. Now I want to break that down just a little bit because it probably feels like I'm picking on law schools and their bar classes. But in reality, these classes have not been very effective since they were first instituted a few years ago. And I think there are several reasons for that. The first is that the people that teach these classes, for the most part, are not professional educators and they are not law school professors. They are almost always unemployed or underemployed graduates of that particular law school who have been hired by the law school to recycle the traditional standardized bar prep course material. And what that means is you're getting a diluted second or third level teaching of material that the individual that's doing that teaching really isn't prepared to teach you. That is, they haven't taught legal writing, they haven't taught bar preparation, they haven't lectured in the subjects themselves. What they're doing is taking their big box or standardized bar prep class, and they're using that material then in a law school class and simply recycling it through. The same material that you're going to take when you take the standardized bar prep course coming out of law school, and that's why it doesn't move the needle for you. It's just the same work you've already been doing. More importantly, if you failed the bar exam, going back to a bar prep course is absolutely not going to help, because the material that they're working from in those courses was never designed for repeat bar takers in the first place. So the result of it is that it does not help you at all. Now, does it help the law school to give that class? Yeah, a little bit. Although in a post-COVID world, more and more of these bar prep classes in law schools are being set aside because they're not easily developed and given. As we go back more to in-person classes, I suspect we'll see more of the bar prep classes coming back. But frankly, if you have to spend your tuition dollars on something, this is not a good place to spend those tuition dollars. Some law schools are requiring their students to take the bar prep class in law school. That's something that's really a fairly recent innovation, if you can call it that, in law schools, but it doesn't make any real appreciable difference. So I think this is really interesting, and a lot of times I hear students tell me that they really just got confused and overwhelmed and frustrated by these law school bar prep courses. They didn't really move them in any great way towards understanding the material or doing better on the material, and I think that's disappointing to the student, but it also recognizes that this is a specialized kind of training that should be done by people that actually have expertise in the field and shouldn't be done by people that just went through, took a bar prep class, and are just recycling what they heard before. So, interesting finding, I think the most significant part of this particular section of the study. What the study also found that I thought was interesting was that there were law school relationships that really did seem to be helpful to people, even if they didn't necessarily change bar passage rates, but they helped individuals feel better as they were going through their studies. And I want to just briefly identify some of those with you, because I do think that there are things that can be helpful in the process, even if they don't change the bar pass rate specifically. Law school relationships, I think, begin with your classmates. Having classmates who have been through the process can be very helpful. It can also be really a hurt and a harm to you if those classmates start passing the bar and you don't. And I often talk to students who feel ostracized and left out or left behind because their classmates took and passed the bar and they didn't. So I think there are limits here on where classmates can be helpful, but where you're in the similar cohort, we find it's very helpful. And that's why in our course, we do connect our students through our private Facebook group and group coaching calls with other students so that they can work together as classmates as they study for the bar. Another area that certainly can make a difference, I think, and help people feel better about the process is to have developed relationships with their professors. There's no question that having key professors that understand subjects can be useful for you as you're studying and beginning to learn and understand the nature of the legal process. I think that's also true when it comes to bar prep. The relationships that I build with my students as a bar prep professor are important because they help me get to know that student, find out their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears, their anxieties, and then starting to deal with those. Sometimes it's about the substance of the law, but sometimes it's about things that are completely unrelated. And so having those relationships, I think, also makes a difference. We mentioned study groups, and the study found that these study groups were a helpful thing for people because they gave them a place to connect. And again, in our Celebration Bar Review course, we provide group study and group coaching, as well as our private Facebook group, which is designed to help students find natural affinity groups and study for their exams there. It's also interesting that just having good study access, library access, was a factor that was reported on by a lot of folks. We know that having a quiet place to study can be really helpful as you're studying for the bar. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes not, and sometimes it's in a library, sometimes it's somewhere else. But I often find that successful students of ours find a place outside their home where they can go and actually study for a while, where there's fewer distractions and it's quiet and they can actually get some work done. Something else that came up, obviously, in the process of going through law school is this whole notion of skills, and developing skills in law school is critically important. The most important skill, as far as I can tell, is a writing skill. I think good writing and understanding how to write is critically important, whether it's an essay or a performance test. And developing those skills is an important part of what you should have developed in law school. But if you didn't, you can learn it in a bar prep class. And then, of course, there are lots of courses. What courses did you take in law school? Were they ones that helped you prepare? We said earlier that taking classes specifically for the bar exam was not a good strategy, and I think that the finding was pretty consistent about this all the way through. But there are definitely some courses that are core and fundamental that you need to have taken, and I particularly find this to be the case with foreign-trained attorneys who may be completely unfamiliar with our code of evidence or our criminal law codes or constitutional law, some of those subjects. So if there are areas in which you have a weakness, certainly taking those courses will be helpful for you. And then finally, these law school relationships also focused on school administrators. I have seen over the years students who have developed terrifically supportive relationships with their law school deans and assistant deans and associate deans, people that were really caring and concerned about their success. In fact, there's a wonderful statement in the study. One of the applicants said, "I immediately contacted the dean of my law school. I told her I failed, and I asked her what she thought I should do. And she told me about this course that's specifically designed for people who are retaking the bar. I signed up for that course." It was Celebration Bar Review. We appreciate that. We've developed over the years a good relationship with deans and administrators around the country who know that a retaker has a different set of needs than a first-time bar taker. And so having that connection, I think, is important, and it can be a real lifeline for people when they're going through the process. So you're at the center of all of those things, and law school relationships are at the center. And as I said, I think all of it really goes back to this idea that having a good foundation, a good basis, when you're going through a stressful time can make all the difference in the world. That's what the fourth finding was about, positive experiences. As we said, we've got 6 videos in this series. We've covered 4 of them through today. In upcoming videos, we're going to look at legal education. That'll be our next video, and the specific value of a legal education. And then we'll wrap up with life factors, which is a big one indeed. So that's where we are in the process. What's next for you if you've been going through these video series with us? I hope, first of all, that you've had the chance to visit our website at celebrationbarreview.com. There's a wealth of information there about the bar exam and about our courses for the Uniform Bar Exam for California, for Florida, and Georgia, and I hope you check all of those resources out. While you're on the site, we would invite you to request our free ebook, How to Study for the Bar Exam. It's been used by thousands of successful students. It's got lots of tips and techniques that will help you to prepare and to get onto the pass list. And we invite you to schedule a free consultation with me. This is a 20-minute Zoom video conference. There's no obligation at all. It's just an opportunity to talk about your studies, what's been happening, where you might be able to improve, and how we might be able to help you do that. So I hope you'll do that. If you go to our website, you'll see that link as well. And then finally, after you've done those things, come back and watch video number 5. We'll look at legal education, and we'll see the value that makes in our findings of how you move from failure to the pass list. Thanks everybody for being with me, and we'll see you again in the next video.